or we are studying in our NMR class, right? So we can use effectively for studying a bigger system. So that will be more accurate result we can get. So we have physics laws. And there is for each physics laws, whether it's a classical mechanics or quantum mechanics, or it's subdivision of that, depending upon the object which we are dealing, we are selecting that physics laws. We are going to write the mathematics behind that. And of course, we can't solve by means of ourselves using our pen and paper. So we are writing some programming code, and we are putting into the some supercomputer, or if it is very small molecule, you can use your desktop or laptop. Now ask computer to solve. One is all this thing together is called a computational chemistry, right? It's a mixture of everything, right? This is my view of understanding the traditional computational difference. You may have a different opinion, a different viewpoint, right? So normally, suppose in a traditional chemistry, right? If you want to make a drug molecule for certain things, certain disease, what we do normally that we studied about the that particular disease very thoroughly. Then, based on the literature knowledge, we are thinking that okay, that these are the set of molecules may be very good for the treatment of that particular disease. Maybe you can think about our corona, right? Because for that, we have to understand about the protein, etc., about the virus, coronavirus, etc. Okay. And now what we are thinking about a set of molecules, we are thinking that those molecules may be a good target for this treatment. So then we are going to go to the lab, making and synthesizing these molecules. Once we synthesize, let's say 100 molecules, we are now studying its property and reactivity, whether it's binding with the protein, binding with this particular protein, disease protein, whether binding with the other proteins. All the studies we are doing in the lab. Then after this clinical trials and all these trials, and found that okay, this molecule may be a good for the treatment because it has no side effect. It's effectively killing particular whatever disease, etc. I think this is one of the traditional view for synthesizing a drug molecules. Similarly for any other application, okay, any other applications. When you came for a computation perspective, same thing we are doing. Only one thing is that we never say we are going to design a system. We read the literature, we understand about the structure and functions of the proteins. Then based on that, the structure, the function, structure activity relationship, we are understanding that okay, this set of molecule may be good. Then we can simulate and compute what are the possible synthetic route in which we can make. Then we are telling to experimentalist, okay, you can take these chemicals, you can do this one, probably you may get, right? And also we can calculate. Of course, there is a need of experimentalist, okay? Then we can calculate the properties, how this binding, whether we can calculate IC50 value and so on, understand about cytotoxicity and other things, and understand what are the things, what are the molecule may be ideal. Then she said that this set of molecules may be good for this particular disease. Then, of course, one has to go to the lab. Experimentalists would make that and check. After making maybe 100, that type of predictive molecule, maybe one may be good. But we can reduce that time gap. That is the basic idea, right? So, in principle, when we are going to model a system, we can everything. That means we can understand each time what type of molecule, what is the structure of the molecule, how it's binding, etc. That means we are going to do in an experimental lab, we don't know how these molecules interact with the protein. Those type of things we can easily understand by modeling. I can show you one video. So this is what we have done in our group. The Rinsha has done this work. So there is some protein and some molecular interaction, how that is binding, etc. So you can see this molecule, the molecule which I shown in the center is going and binding in a particular pocket. Are you able to see? Yes, I'll show you one more time. This is a complete simulation. Initially, we kept in a particular position with the time that molecule going down to certain point and binding at a particular position. When you check the binding energy, that binding energy found to be the lowest. This is simulation about the possible drug molecule for potassium ion channel blockers. Okay. I'm not going to tell more detail about that one. So we could understand that where this molecule is going and binding, which amino acid is responsible for that. All these things we can understand. That means we can see with our eye where it's binding. Of course, that depending upon the theory which you have selected, based on the accuracy of the theory which you have selected, based on the approximation you employed, you may get a different set of different result. It may be slightly vary from the exact result. Okay. In other words, what we are not able to see through our naked eye, we can see in our computer by modeling. That means that's why I said computational chemistry is a live show. Okay. So I think I can take maybe 2-3 minutes more, right?
You can take time, no problem.
Okay. So I maybe maximum 5 more minutes I will take about the balance of this, etc. Yeah. This is another picture we used to see in our experiment lab. This is a tripod. Above the tripod, there is a crucible is there, and there under that there is a burner. Interestingly, there is a 3 legs for this tripod. But one leg I'm considering as a theory development. That may be physics theory development. Second is called a experimental work, right? There are a lot of theory developed, just like what Dirac said, and that is not used by experimentalists, right? But of course, there is no way to use. So for using effectively, one need one more thing, it's called a computation. That means just like a tripod, to get a proper balance for the scientific work, there is a need of theory development, there is need of experimental work, and experimentalist and theory people should collaborate and do discuss and say that, okay, I have this problem and how to solve this. For that, we need a pure computational people. They may help for solving the problem by selecting appropriate theory and by using computer. Right? In earlier days, there was a lot of theory developed, but nobody was using. Lot of experimental works are done, but there are some of them are getting failure. Was not proper. They could not give a proper explanation. So it is not able to use for a particular purpose. So once this computations came in between, all of them are going to tie together. Now there is an effective collaboration between experimentalists and theory people through computational work. That is the need of the day, need of the hour. So for promoting that, this picture I have taken from a Nobel Prize website. in this Nobel Prize website, after announcing Nobel Prize in 2013, this picture is uploaded. By looking on this picture, there are two important things. A person who's doing experimental work, other person, he's standing and doing experimental work, other lazy fellow, sitting and doing some computation work. So if you look thoroughly to this picture, which direction steps are going up? Yeah, you can say that, oh, this experiment is sitting on the top, he's sitting down, going, climbing steps, and reaching here. The reverse. Nice theory by means so that I can understand lot of things, but then nobody is going to utilize that. What is the use of that? If there is any theory which developed without any use, that theory is waste. Any chemical which is synthesized in the lab without any use, that also waste. Right? So mutual collaboration between experimentalists and theory people through computation people is required. This cartoon is put in the website of Nobel Prize link for promoting this one, right? So one has to throw about our egos. That's what indication, right? So these are the basic things which is about the computational chemistry, and we can use this computational chemistry for solving chemical problems, structure, bonding, reactivity, reaction mechanism, properties of molecules, solids, biomolecules, whatever you want. But of course, we can't use all the theories as it is. We have to employ several approximations. Once we employ several approximations, then only we can effectively use these laws. Accordingly, the accuracy of the result which you are getting will vary. Okay, of course, I'm not going to discuss in depth about that. Of course, I put more slides on that, but I'm just ignoring. So, in principle, what the computational chemistry means, I'm talking in terms of chemistry perspective, that we have to take physics laws, had to understand about mathematics, write the programming code, find out and solve by means of computer whatever the chemical problems. Okay, so this is I try to give an overview of this computational chemistry without writing and telling any mathematics behind that, based on only purely concept, a simple concept which you know already, or you forgot, or we studied already, and maybe you forgot about that, right? It's nothing new laws which we have to learn. Or of course, one has to understand a little bit about physics, a little bit about mathematics, and of course, a little bit about the computer. Then you can do quite a lot of things. As I showed in the first picture, it may be a vibrational motion of the breathing. This is like the breathing vibrational motion of the density molecule. Some electron density distribution. From there we can understand that it may be nucleophilic or electrophilic, or some spectral data we can understand. All these things we can predict. Okay, so these are the main applications of the computational chemistry, right? I have not said any specific application. I hope you would get some idea about the computational chemistry. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I'm happy to answer if I know.
Okay, so that was very informative and wonderful lecture. So now, if you have any questions, we can take a few of them. Either you can ask the question directly. Hope we'll be able to hear. I already see there are some questions asked here. So let me go through that. Param, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
This is Jisna. She has written, Sir, can you tell us what are the current advances or research directions for those working in proteins? Now, that is a very broad question. We will just cut it down to computational studies of proteins itself. So, Param, can you give some insights?
Yeah, there are several studies in the proteins are currently going on, right? See, in understanding about the structure of the protein, that itself is a rather complicated thing. So primary, secondary, tertiary structure, because they are mainly by the non-covalent interactions. As per my understanding, still the proper protein structure and the conformational changes are not been solved yet, right? If you understand, because for that understanding that, you have to understand minute interaction between each atom. That's a challenging task. But if you understand, you can understand about certainly some specific interaction of a certain kind of molecule with a certain protein. For example, we were trying to understand how potassium ions are moving in a potassium ion channel, and what are the amino acids responsible for that, right? Similarly, there are a set of things in the drug discovery part and the conformational part, structural part. There are so many things are there. I think I could give a broad answer for that question, I think.
Yeah. She has one more question. What kind of computational tools are currently needed in the area of proteins?
That's what I said about the last portion of the talk. We had used quantum mechanical and classical mechanics laws together, right? So if you understand about the some protein movement, etc., then we can use the classical mechanics laws. But most advanced one currently is a QEM-MM method. It's called a quantum mechanical molecular mechanics method. It has two different types. One is called the additive approach, other called a subtractive approach. This additive approach is developed by several scientists were there. One of the person is called a KG Morokuma, where I have done my postdoctoral work. So that's one of the advanced one, quantum mechanical molecular mechanics approach, both together. I hope you got some idea, right?
Okay, so now Sunil Kumar has a question. How much is the matching between computer-aided drug design and experimental drug design?
No, this is a very important question. Yeah, so, as per my understanding, the computational peoples are giving a set of molecules and calculating and predicting. I think 99% case is not we are not able to get a proper drug molecule. But I heard somewhere that there is one drug molecule is now is going to come up based on the computational studies. But only one thing definitely one can do. We can reduce the time. Okay, we can screen a set of molecule by means of computer, and we can tell the experimentalist to synthesize only those molecules.
Yeah, primarily it gives important and breakthrough insights into the kind of experiments that you should do, rather than search in a very large set of possibilities of experiments. You will be more focused on a particular kind of area of experiments.
One more thing is that complete modeling of drug design, that means protein, etc., in the particular environment is still not possible. In the biological medium, you have to simulate particular protein, and how many of them are there is interacting, we don't know. Right? So complete modeling is still there is a problem. Yeah.
So there are more questions on protein interactions. This Sharon is asking which all physicochemical factors must be considered when computationally dealing with protein-protein interaction.
Okay, almost all physicochemical properties related to a drug one has to consider, right? Starting from structure. First point is structure, right? Then it's binding. Then binding site, electrophilic site, nucleophilic site. Then what you call it, cytotoxicity, IC50 value. Everything we have to consider. There's nothing that we can exclude, right? Everything we have to consider.
Okay, Subhash has a very difficult question here. Can we predict the properties of hybrid materials like composites?
Okay, and probably you may be knowing one faculty, Nishant, from IIT Kanpur is trying to model composites through classical mechanics. Okay, but the problem is that no, the composite, can you predict where are these each atoms localized? What are the molecules involved in it? If you know the coordinate of each atom, in principle, you can model it. Since you don't know the what are the molecules, what are the where it is localized, it's very difficult. You can think of some structure, and we can calculate some portion of that structure. That is possible, but complete unknown. Maybe you know the what are the composition, how they are going to bind. If you don't know, is very difficult. I can tell you one. I can tell you one thing. There is one scientist in a Kyoto University. He studied the melting of ice. Melting of ice. He took 2 years to study that. Melting of ice. Simple is very simple, right? Only water molecules are there. All of them are bound to the hydrogen bond. And we have to understand with the time how this is happening, as well as functional temperature. And he got a very nice paper in Science. I think it is published in 2008 or 9. Yeah, because number of variables is quite important.
Okay, Param. So there is a very practical question, Dr. Ramesh. Which computer softwares are required for doing research on computational chemistry? Can you repeat the question? Which computer softwares are required for doing research on computational chemistry?
That depends on what type of calculation you are going to do, as well as what type of molecules you are going to deal. Suppose if you want to study about the electrophilic aromatic substitution reaction, simply you can use a Gaussian software. But if you want to study about the interaction of some molecules with on the surface of a graphene, I don't think Gaussian is not a good choice. Probably you have to use WASP or LAMP or etc. Depending upon the problem, you have to select the software.
Yeah, it also depends on your resources. There are also free codes which are available, as well as if you have money, you can buy things like Gaussian or ADF. These are all very well-known packages. If you have a periodic system, then WASP. If you have a classical, if you just want to look at molecular dynamics, then there is LAMPS. I think GROMACS also does classical MD, right, Param?
Yes. GROMACS does. Yes.
Okay, so any other questions directly which participants wants to ask Dr. Parameswaran? You are welcome to ask now.
Yeah.
Param, I am Unnikrishnan. Can I have a question?
Yes, certainly, sir.
It's a thank you, Dr. Raghu. It's a wonderful lecture. So it's very informative. so that one is pushed into computational chemistry wonderfully.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you.
I had one question early, but that was asked by the students. So that is solved. The question was about the differentiation between the approaches in the computations of small molecules and macromolecules. That you have answered pretty well. My
Okay, thank you.
second question is a very general question. So
Okay.
how do we confirm that the input parameters are sufficient enough to get a realistic solution? Is it a random or process, or there is an optimization procedure? And what are the flexibilities offered by the Gaussian software for it?
Yeah, sir. No, suppose if you want to study about some particular reaction in a particular solvent, right? So
Yeah.
we have to, now we know the what is a reaction. Okay, suppose
Yeah.
some reaction in a DMSO solvent.
Right.
So we have to incorporate solvent model. We can't do gas phase calculation.
Okay.
Default it will be gas phase calculation. There will be certain keywords. So by means of that we can incorporate solvent.
Okay.
And there is certain ways in which we can keep temperature.
Okay.
We can use if we have going to study dynamics, we can keep for particular long time. Maybe reaction if it's slow, it will take quite long time to a reaction. So simulation time also will be quite long. So that means depending upon the reaction, what are the parameters are important. Now based on that we have to select. There are several options are there. That depending upon the problem faced by the experimentalist, and he or she has to explain what are their experimental conditions.
Yeah. But how do we confirm that those are sufficient?
No, but for the experimental work, what are the things we are doing? We know, right? We try to incorporate the maximum. We are trying to incorporate the maximum.
Okay.
And they compare with some experimental value if it is available.
Okay.
If it's totally different, there is no experimental report, previous experimental report. There is always we had to study at a different level of theories and see there is not much variation.
Okay. So that's actually a random trial process.
This is systematic optimization is required.
Systematic optimization. Thank you, Varun. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? Participants? Students? Any other questions? So, if there are no more questions, then I think we will conclude. Sujit, anything else?
Okay. So let me close this presentation, right?
Yeah, you can close the presentation. I would take this opportunity to thank all the coordinators, student coordinators' names who have come up on the chat box. Also the Department of Chemistry, actually Dr. Sujit, for organizing this wonderful lecture. And I hope this initiative will continue, and I wish all success. Now I will hand over to Sujit to close the entire proceedings. Thank you. Sujit, you have to unmute.
I'm sorry. It was a great response from the participants. You see around 150 participants were there for this session. So it was a very interesting session. So Parameswaran did it in a very simple way. That is the very important thing we have to highlight. If we want, we can have some much higher thing also about this computational chemistry. Now it is a very simple way he has taken very fundamentally. So if you want some higher level computational chemistry, that also we can consider in the coming webinar series. So it was a great, nice presentation. And I thank Dr. Parameswaran for giving a nice presentation for all of us. And the seminar chair was Dr. Raghu Chatanaturi, Professor of Physics. So thank you, sir, for for chairing the session. And I already told you we have two student coordinators, Vidya CV and Jishnu Saiji. So both are research scholars of Department of Chemistry and NIT Calicut. So they did a lot of work behind this, the preparation of the brochure, and participants also. There many participants. They contacted many people. So it was a great session. Hope that we can continue the webinar series. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.